Good afternoon. Hi, everybody. It's Tuesday. It's the 10th of January, and we're kicking off the year with some great workshops as part of the Hostos Student Leadership Academy annual winter workshop series for 2023. This is our third year doing things remote, and we were reflecting earlier on the days when we were all together and having lunch and setting in for the afternoon workshops. And we hope one day we'll get back to that, but we're not there right yet. So as we move along and we try to be inspirational in the remote environment, I have the pleasure of introducing you to one of our newest speaker, Roberta Tabb. We heard from Bert and Gio and Brian about all the years that they've been coming back. And this is actually the first presentation that Roberta is going to do with us. She was recommended to me by Bert. I take his recommendations very seriously. He's a valuable member of our community. And from what I've read about Roberta, she's an extraordinary individual who has a great story to tell, was featured in People magazine, I believe. And so I'm going to turn it over to her to tell her story. And I'm very excited for this workshop. So Roberta, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm super excited to be here. Bert, thanks for the recommendation. I hope that I can do justice. So the name of this workshop is TABBATUDES, Building Your Confidence in Leadership by Changing What You Say to Yourself. And of course, I'm Roberta Tabb. I'm so happy to be here to speak to you today. And my hope is that at the end of our time together, you'll know why being self-aware and internal conversations and self-talk are so important to you. I hope that you'll leave with knowing that your confidence and your leadership really depend on the internal self-talks you have with yourself. You'll also have a few actionable tips to help switch up your mindsets and positive outcomes for any situations. So I'm going to attempt to share my screen now. Okay, can we see my screen? Okay, great. Okay, true to form, I would like to start with an icebreaker. Just to warm up a little bit, this will kind of lead into what the rest of my talk is going to be about. So if I can get a few people to tell me what their names are and their favorite color, and then something you like about yourself that starts with the first initial of your favorite color. I can go first. My favorite color is red, and I'm really, really good at cooking. So it could be as simple as that. So if I could get a few people to come off mute and share some things.
Okay, well, I'll start, everybody. Hi, my name is Susan. My favorite color is baby blue, and something about myself that starts with the color I like. Well, I'm beautiful, so that's it. I'm sorry. Thank you.
That's perfect. You got an A. Perfect. Can I get someone else to share? Come on, favorite colors. I know it's very personal.
My name is Sashi. My favorite color is purple, and I'm a people pleaser.
I love that. I love that.
I put mine in the chat, but I'll also say it out loud. I'm Bert. Favorite color is blue, and I'm bold, and that's a lot of B's.
Good job. Can we get one more?
Yeah, I'll go. Hi, my name's Jose.
Hi, Jose.
My favorite color is green, and I'm good at making pizza.
Very nice. What kind of pizza?
I like Neapolitan, if anybody knows what that is.
Why don't you explain it since you're so good at it?
Oh yeah, it's like if anybody's like ever eaten at like a wood-fired pizza place, it's made in a brick oven. Usually the Italians, they're pretty good at making that style of pizza.
Do you have a brick oven?
No, I don't, but I do plan on getting one soon.
That is a goal that I like. I love that.
I'm going to your house.
Okay, does anyone else, would anyone else like to share?
Hello, my name is Melanie. Favorite color is red, and I am reliable.
I love it. I love it. See, I love it. Positive self-talk. I love it. That's what I'm going to be talking to you guys about today. Okay, so are we warmed up? Is the ice broken enough? Is everybody good?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm gonna talk a lot about myself. It sounds terrible, but in order for me to get my point across and for me to teach you guys the things that I would like for you to learn today, I'm gonna have to tell you my story. I'm gonna have to tell you who I am now and a lot about like where I came from to get to be the person that I am today. So bear with me. The first part of this will be about me, and then the second part of it will be all about you guys. Okay, so a little about me. I work as a digital e-commerce designer, mostly in the fashion retail space in New York.
I'm sorry, honey. I can't hear you. I don't know if it's just me.
We lost sound. Yeah, we lost sound. I think you muted.
Wow, can you hear me?
We can
Hello?
now.
Oh,
Yes,
sorry.
we can now. Yep.
Nah, yeah,
No.
boxes in the bill.
No,
Yeah, now we can.
sorry about that, guys. I muted myself. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, so as I was saying, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself because in order for me to teach you guys the things that I want for you to learn, then you need to know what I do and where I've come from to get to where I am today. So the first part of this will be about me, and then the second part is going to be about you guys. So a little about me. I work in the I work as a digital e-commerce designer, mostly in the retail fashion space in New York City. I'm coming up on almost 20 years of experience in the industry. In most cases, I'm the only person on my team that does what I do. And I lead all digital creative execution from conception to implementation. I'm responsible for digital creative that ranges from web homepages, landing pages, UI, UX, marketing materials, and social assets. So what that means to you is that on any given day, you can go to a website and I've designed the entire homepage experience, as well as the marketing email you probably clicked on to get to that website, or the social media asset that you clicked on from Facebook, Snapchat, or Instagram. I've worked mostly for big brands, some of which are household names and that you'll probably recognize. I've worked for companies like Bravo and A&E. I've done work for Lacoste, New York & Company, BarnesandNoble.com, Juicy Couture, and Johnson & Johnson. From that list, I'm sure some of those like stuck out to some of you. So as a designer with companies like this, you have no idea how competitive the space gets, how overwhelming the creative reviews, critiques, and the opinions of executive leadership get. I have to be very self-aware and confident in my ability just to keep showing up each day. Earlier in my career, at various points, I questioned whether my passion was large enough or even if I was good enough to compete. Sometimes as a creative, you take a beating. Not because something is done technically wrong, but because everything is so subjective. This can be simply unbearable without the right tools and esteem to succeed. A lot of what I use to keep showing up derives from the lessons I learned along the way in becoming who I am. Okay, so what does that really mean? To you, it might sound like, I came to New York, I applied for a bunch of jobs, and I got them because I'm good at what I do. Well, I always don't believe that's true. The internal conversations I've had to have with myself go much deeper. So I don't actually believe that things just happen. I believe we make them happen by believing we can. This all derives from internal conversation and becoming very self-aware. So now that you know what I do for a living, I can tell you about a little bit about my past and like where I've come from. So I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, originally. Neither of my parents had educations past middle school. And when I was born, we actually lived in subsidized housing, we lived in the projects. My mom was diagnosed with a learning disability, and my father dropped out of school to go to the military because he was one of 10 children. So though neither of my parents had proper educations, the importance of education was not lost on them. My entire life, my parents told me I needed to go to college. I had to get an education because, of course, to them, education, college equals money, and we never had any money, and they wanted me to have money. So that all makes sense. But the gotcha is neither of them could tell me how to actually accomplish this. My entire life, it was rammed into my head with no direction at all. Go to college, get an education. But they couldn't tell me how to do it or give me an actual tangible thing, an actual tangible resource on how I was supposed to make this happen. And I know I look relatively young, but back in 1998, I couldn't just go to my cell phone or go to my computer and research, how do I go to college? How do I apply for college? If you noticed, I didn't say Google because Google did not exist back when I was in high school about to go to college. So that's how crazy it all sounds very crazy. So not only did I not have kind of the resources to show me how to get to places that neither of my parents had been to, there wasn't really a resource that I could use to help me along my way of becoming kind of a first generation student that's going to college. So I figured it out with the help of a guidance counselor and the help of just kind of external resources like mentors and things like that. So I figured this out, and I will admit to you guys, I got very mediocre grades when I was in high school. I had a full-time job. I was very much focused on that as opposed to focused on, the next part of my life. But somehow I figured it out. I chose some schools, I sent in my paper application, and eventually I got accepted to a couple of schools that I felt comfortable moving forward with. So this seems like a huge feat for a kid, but it wasn't even my biggest struggle at the time. So in high school, I was overweight and I was very depressed. And when I say overweight, I mean 100+ pounds. I was considered obese when I was in high school. I think 300 pounds, and I'm 5'6". So I was obese. I was depressed. I was unhappy. Daily, I feel like I just went through the motions of what I was told to do daily, but I couldn't actually figure out why I was doing these things. I never actually thought that I would amount to anything, and I just did these things because I was told that I was supposed to. I remember spending a lot of time self-loathing. I remember finding negatives to match any positive that happened, and that's just how I lived my life daily. not just like no one told me how I was supposed to go to college. No one told me how I was supposed to speak to myself. No one told me how or why I should love myself. But at the time, I had no idea that these two things would go like hand in hand, and that, you know, figuring this out would affect everything in the rest of my life to come. So eventually, I picked a college because I was supposed to, and I was kind of excited about it, but I was very scared. I was frightened. Anything that you do for the first time is super, super scary. I chose an art school for my undergrad experience, and it ended up being one of the best decisions of my life. I also chose to not go away for school so that I could keep my job and so that I could get an apartment. All of these things kind of fell into the category of me doing the same things that I had always done and being super comfortable in the life that I was living and not like reaching a little bit further outside of my box. That being said, you know, one day, you know, I realized that I was just doing the same things every day and I wasn't actually living. You know, I went to school, I went to work, and then sometimes I went back to school again, but I truly wasn't satisfied with the quality of anything that I was doing. You know, sure, I was meeting new people, I was having new experiences, and I was actually learning things that intrigued me, but the root of the problem had never changed. I was still me, and I still disliked myself. I was still overweight, and I was still just existing. I had no purpose that I knew of. No one told me I was supposed to have a purpose beyond just going to school and getting an education so that I could make more money. But of course, we know that it goes deeper than that now. I would let myself overeat, and then I would wallow in depression. I would be depressed after I would overeat, and then I would overeat some more. And then I would wallow because I failed whatever diet I was on. So it was kind of like this tragic circle that I allowed myself to be involved in simply because I had no direction. It was what I'd always known and what I was always useful. And it seemed very, very safe to me. You see, I was progressing in some areas of life, but I was still telling myself that nothing had changed and that nothing would change. In my heart, I knew that I would never lose weight. I told myself I would never lose weight and that I would keep gaining because it's all I had ever done. I told myself repeatedly that I could not do it. I convinced myself that a person like me didn't deserve anything more. These internal, very private conversations went on weekly, if not daily. If I received a good score on an exam, I would find something bad about myself to overshadow it. For an example, if I got an A on a test or something, I would say, oh, I got an A on the test, but when I went up to get my paper, you know, because everything was paper back then, when I went up to get my paper, you know, everyone in the class was staring at me with shame. So for every positive, I would find a negative because it's what I'd always done. And it's the only thing that I'd ever known. I always found something negative to overshadow every positive that happened to me in my life. So do we have I'll ask you guys, does anyone have a recent example of negative self-talk that came after something that was super positive in their lives?
Well, me personally, just last year, I started the process to get my own apartment. And it took a while. And the first time when I moved, I actually moved in May. Yeah, like May 1st. So I had told myself from the year prior, 2021, I was like, before the summer, I'm going to be in my own apartment. And I was very unhappy. I was like, damn, I want to go back to school. But it was like, you know, just work or whatever, do what you have to do. So it went from being grateful to at least having a place to stay and still looking around me. And it was like, you know, other people your age have a car, have their own apartment, are married by now, have kids, maybe have a career. Like, you are so far behind. It was like, child, get yourself together. But then from there, I said, you know what? I'm me. and I don't know what another person's life, or nobody knows what other people's life outcome might be. But I said, you know what, let me just be more grateful of the present and the now. And then I started really manifesting stuff. So next thing you know, I was in my first apartment, because I moved twice in less than 2 years. So I was in my first apartment before the summertime. Then it was like, okay, this is good, but it was still kind of like it. I had to tell myself, like, when as a human being, I feel like we're never satisfied, because it's always like more and more and more and more. Like, when does it stop? So even though I did got my own place, I was still emotional. I was like, oh my God, like I could walk around my house however I want to, but it was still kind of like, damn, look at the neighborhood I'm in, like, So it went from me living in the Bronx. Actually, I wasn't too far away from the school. I was like on Jackson Avenue. Then now I live in Brooklyn, in excuse my language, but and in a different, more safer area. So I see people outside jogging, walking their dogs. I'm like, I made it, but I'm like, I know this ain't it. There's more to life. But coming where I come from, I'm like, oh my God. So now I'm telling myself, I'm like, from here, by the end of this year, 2023, I'm gonna be living in a beautiful house. I don't know where or how it's gonna happen, but I told myself, if you said that you was gonna live in your own apartment before the summertime, just dream bigger. Don't just say it, and believe it. So that was me.
That's perfect. That's exactly what I mean. Those examples that you gave, that's exactly what I mean. It's like, oh, I got an apartment. Oh, but it's in the hood, blah, blah, blah. Like these internal conversations that you don't even have to say out loud. That's a great example of what I'm talking about. And congratulations to you. Like, that's dope. Like, and you're doing the manifestation already. You don't even need this talk. Like you're already doing the manifestation. I'm here for it. Does anybody else have an example of negative self talk, or a negative to something positive that has happened in their life recently that they'd like to share? I know it's all very personal. Like, these internal conversations are very, very personal, and I still struggle with them today. Nobody else wants to share? Okay. We'll move on.
I can jump in. Yeah, this happens anytime I honestly try something new. You know, I feel like some of you guys heard the talk earlier where I was talking about, releasing music. It's so interesting, even though I might release a song, when it comes to spoken word, like that's a little bit more personal. I'm like, oh man, is this too much? Like, are they gonna, think I'm overexposing myself? And so even though in one area I can be creative and feel confident, in another area, it's actually I kind of beat myself up a little bit. Even though this is something that I generally feel like I'm good at. So even with the what I think is a skill or a gift. So that's definitely something that I experience. So if anyone else can relate to that, I'm just gonna leave that there.
Perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. I mean, even, us, we're, speaking and trying to, give you guys our professional experience. These are still things that we struggle with all the time. So Bert, thank you for sharing that. I really just want to, me telling my story, like, of where I came from, I really just want you guys to realize just, the kind of things that I struggled with. Being where I came from, there weren't many resources. So struggling through them was the only way to actually get through them. And I'm glad I'm on the other side of it, which I can, share the story with you guys. So, back to my story. At the time, I was stuck. I was kind of in my own kind of like private hell. A private hell that I had created for myself and that I was living every single day. But it was all so familiar, and it was so easy to live that way because I had always been that way my entire existence, my entire being. It was very easy to become my own worst enemy. And this was consistently happening, but I had no awareness. I just wasn't aware of myself at all. I didn't know all of the damage that I was creating for myself by causing these really negative, consistent patterns all the time. So I'm glad that everybody, I'm sure, and I know that everybody, sorry, Susan, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just have a quick question because I know you used to say you used to weigh like what, 300 pounds? If I'm sorry, am I wrong?
Yeah, no, you're right.
Okay, so now you look, let me not even use the word perfect because you know everybody's different, but you look good. And I used to weigh like one, oh my God, okay, I started from like 130, then I went up to 190. Now I'm 200 pounds. Don't judge me, y'all. Okay. I
No
feel like
judgment.
I'm going, no, I know, I'm just saying, I'm just saying, I feel like I'm going backwards and I'm trying so hard. But you know, it's like what led you to like, what was your consistency? Like even now, like how do you stay the way you look like right now?
Again, so all of this leads back into, positive self-talk and really just being consistent, right? So I found whatever it was that worked for me. At the time, I was an emotional eater and I ate emotionally. So I was sad all the time. So what made me happy? Eating food made me happy. So that's what I used to do, right? So I learned to kind of take those, I was able to refocus my emotional eating into emotional going to the gym, or really it became just a lifestyle change, right? It was as simple as me, not as simple, but simply put, it was as simple as me saying, oh, I don't do this anymore. Oh, I don't eat chocolate anymore. Oh, I don't eat fried food anymore. Oh, I don't eat fast food anymore. And I made those promises to myself consistently. I said to myself that I'm not going to do this anymore, so I'm not going to do it. I didn't say it to anyone else. I literally just made promises to myself and I kept them consistently. So for me, that's what worked. And that kind of, like, as you'll see, it kind of became the basis for, every other area in my life, if that makes sense. Does that answer your question?
Okay, yes, thank you. I would say me personally, real quick, and my family, because my mom is from Honduras and my dad is from the Cayman Islands, so I come from two different backgrounds. But usually, Caribbean women, we don't use the word like, oh, you fat, or you this, you that. Some Caribbean, I mean, most Caribbeans is like, oh, she's curvy and stuff like that. So even my mother right now at her age, I think she's like, what, 55? Oh my God, God forgive me. She's somewhere in her 50s, and the way she looks like, she's a mom, yeah, of course, but she's not like, I don't know, but I guess people would say like American sloppy fat, if I'm not like trying to offend anybody, but it's like I grew up seeing two different spectrums. And out here, like when my mom would take us to the doctors and stuff like that, they'll be like, oh, don't give your daughter this milk, or
Right.
and all
Right,
this other
yeah.
stuff. And it was kind of like, what? Like, even when it came to like, well, I have like a therapist, just for myself to keep myself together mentally. But even when it came to like taking therapy, my mom was like, what therapist? Like, what are you talking about? And I had my first session with my mom. When I had it, she was looking at my therapist like, why my daughter need to be sitting here talking to you? We don't even know you. Like, so it was like, damn, like I appreciate it. And I do thank God that I did grow up in the best of both worlds. But just to see like even culture differs on like the mindset that you have, it's like, so crazy. And especially going to Hostos, I'm so grateful. Like Hostos is a really, really good school. But I say that to say this. I met a lot of great people there. And one particular thing was that, like I said, back to just the culture part of it, I met somebody, just a quick example, that was like from Africa. And I know for me growing up, that was another part too as well. Like everything in America, they make it like look so great. Come to America, this and that. And there's people out here struggling themselves too as well, And of course, if things were great in other people's countries, nobody would be coming out here. Like everybody would just stay, where they were born at, or whatever the case may be. But there was this one particular person that he showed me his house that he had in Africa, and it was like a mansion. And I was like, oh my God, okay, I'm gonna change. I'm gonna get my passport and move out there, never come back to New York. So yeah, it's just, it's so much. And I feel like unless you really put yourself out there and like you just stay in your own bubble, like you definitely will never know, because the world is huge and it's like it's so many different things out here.
Right. I think you made some really, really good points. The cultural differences in, in anything and, how we look or if we're going to go to therapy, things like that, they're all very, very important. But as an individual, that's when you turn back to that internal conversation of the person that you want to be. You get to be an individual, but you're also a part of your culture, right? You get to choose however you want to look or the things that you want to focus on, right? So I think that really just becoming more aware and assured of who you are and the choices that you make for yourself, these are the things that should overshadow everything else in your life. And if I'm being honest, I'm from Pittsburgh. I came to New York and I was introduced to so many other different cultures. I mean, cultures I didn't even know existed. So for me, I kind of went into culture shock, but it was also amazing at the same time because here people were allowed to be different as opposed to just, Pittsburgh is very black or white, right? There are very small pockets of different cultures and ethnic people there, but for the most part, it's black and white. And I grew up seeing black and white. Not Puerto Ricans, not Dominicans, not Haitians, not Jamaicans, not Germans. It's very black and white. So coming here, it is kind of like a melting pot here in New York. And for me, learning about different cultures and the different struggles within the cultures, they're different from my culture, but there's still struggles nonetheless. And that all circles back to us just being allowed to be individuals and, talking to ourselves and keeping those internal conversations of the kind of person that you want to be for yourself and not necessarily for your culture or for your family, but the kind of person that you want to be for yourself that's going to push you forward in life. So I definitely commend you for making, those comments. And I mean, as far as like losing weight and becoming a different person, things like that, it's all very personal and you just do it for yourself. I understand there are two different mindsets in that, but it all boils down to who you want to become as a person and, in the future, also who you want to become. So just consistency is key. That's what I tell everybody all the time. They say, how do you do it? It's being consistent and remembering what I said I wanted and keeping that in the forefront of my mind all the time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, thank you so much. I don't want to keep going back and forth. I'm sorry, I'm the only one talking. Sorry,
fine.
guys.
No, you're fine. I appreciate it.
One thing I told myself this year, I said, girl, you got to learn how to swim because I don't know how to swim. And I want to learn how to ride a bike. Listen, I'm 27 years old. Okay. My mama wasn't that type. She was more of like, wherever I go, you go. So for me growing up, it was mostly like church home. And then as I got older, yes, I was rebellious and I started doing things I had no business doing. But, I told myself, like, when I become a mother, I want my kids, like, even if I have to push them in the water, like, you're going to learn everything I didn't learn, take karate, do golf. Like, I want them to experience because honestly, even, like, I just got my driver's license. Oh my God, it's 2023, like 4 years ago now. So, when somebody was like, oh, get your license, I'm like, I'm from New York. We got the bus, train, taxi, Ubers. What am I going to be driving for? But then I have family in Houston, Texas. So when I went to Houston, there was kids in high school driving. I said, why do you even have a car? It was like, listen, transportation out here is not like in other places. So from there, I felt like, I'm like, damn, girl, like you need to get yourself together because there's 13, 14-year-olds with cars. And, I guess I was a product of my environment and also like what I grew up in, but I had to learn that doesn't define me. So I'm gonna just close it with that. Sorry.
No, I think it's great. I think you hit on a few things. You're adding action to your affirmations, right? You're saying, I want to do this, but this is how I'm going to do this. My kids are, going to take swimming lessons. Oh, I got a bike. Oh, I got my driver's license, right? So you can't just say you want something without doing the actual thing that you say you want to do, right? So I think that's great. Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it so much. Okay, so this kind of like circles. So to Susan's comment, I got to a point where I hit like rock bottom, right? Like I'm in college, I'm like overweight, You know, I'm going through the motions, but I'm still sad every day. I'm having new experiences, I'm meeting new people, but I'm still sad every single day. Finally, I just got fed up. You know, I hit the bottom and it all just seemed like too much. I was wallowing in like self-pity. I was overeating. I was under so much pressure. You know, I was studying, you know, I was giving this false presentation to the entire world, and I had to like stick in that presentation that I was giving to everyone. I was stuck, and I just got tired of feeling bad like every single day. Then one day, I can't even tell you the day that it was, but one day I just made a decision. And I made a decision and everything changed. I decided that I would try something different. I decided I was going to try being nice to myself. I started being aware of the things that I would say to myself daily. I started saying kind things to myself. I forced myself to do the opposite of what I always knew. I got really, really, really uncomfortable, and I was consistent in being uncomfortable. I told myself that I could do it every single day, and I told myself that I was stronger than I thought I was. I told myself this so many times, so many times, that it started to become true. I started actually believing myself. I wasn't just chanting these things to myself. I started actually believing it. So after a very, very rough 2 or 3 years later of consistency, me being nice to myself, me saying nice things to myself and telling myself that I could do it, I graduated college and I had lost over half my body weight just by being nice to myself and telling myself not to quit and believing that I could actually do something instead of accepting that I was going to be the same person I was because it's all I had ever been. This gave me a really different outlook on life. This is when all of the fun began. I learned a very, very valuable lesson very young. I learned that I could accomplish anything if I only believed I could. I learned that if I wanted to lead others in life, first I needed to lead myself. I had to become very self-aware, aware of the words that I said to myself and aware of the belief that I kept in myself. I had to be aware of the words I said to myself and aware of the beliefs that I had in myself. So that's basically my story and how the beginning of my life went and how I grew into becoming the person that I am now. So I was gonna like break here for Q&A, but I mean, we did a little Q&A earlier, but if anybody has any questions up until now, I'd gladly answer.
Did you ever have like, I don't know, well, I asked the question in the chat, but did you ever have like a mental breakdown where it kind of hit you and you was like, okay, I have to make a change, even after you spoke to yourself maybe like 1,000 times?
Yeah, so I think, sorry, I just saw the chats here now. Sorry about that. Sure, I think, you know, at the point where, you know, I decided to change and do something different, that was really rock bottom. And it was kind of like a mental breakdown. I mean, I told myself I hated myself, right? Like there was no way that I could keep going on in life being the same person that I was. I was just so sad and depressed every day. And I personally couldn't believe that people walked around feeling the way that I did every day. So that was my try something different, let's be nice to myself, was what happened after I hit my like mental like breakdown, if that makes sense. Any other questions? Sorry, I'm looking. Okay, does anybody else have any questions? Oh, okay, so what are some of the top books you read that helped you in your journey? I can't say that I read many books to help me in my journey. I think at the time I wasn't in a space where I was comfortable looking for outside help. If we're talking about 15, 20 years ago, you know, self-help wasn't like a thing back then, right? It was, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and like, get going. So I can't say that I had many resources to help me. Like now there are plenty, but like back then I can't say that there's one book that I could, identify as something that was like life-changing. I will say that for graduation, I remember for graduation from college or from maybe it was graduation from high school, I did receive an affirmation book. It was Ayanna Van Zant's Acts of Faith, affirmations for African American people, I believe it's called. I have it somewhere here. I did receive that book, and it's so weird that, I read through it, but the words that I read, they didn't seem like they were for me. It didn't seem like I was reading this book and this could help me in my life, right? But now, 20 years later, I'm doing the exact same thing that she did. Like I have my own affirmation book, right? To help other people, other, kids that are, in high school or that are in college. So I think the full circle is a little bit strange. I think that I received something that could have helped me, but I wasn't open to receiving the help at that time. I'll put it that way. Do we have any other questions? Okay. Okay, so I told you where I came from. I told you where I came from and kind of like the beginning of like how I got to where I am now. So again, this is just a little about me. As I said earlier, I'm a senior digital e-commerce designer with 20 years of experience. I have a BS in multimedia and web design and an MA in professional writing. I've authored and published 3 books now. 2 of them are meal prep books, and the last one is an affirmation book that I'm very, very proud of that I actually just published in December. I've developed my own affirmation app that's available in the App Store. That was one of my passion projects that I just created during like the pandemic when I was like working from home and I got like a little bit bored. And I've been featured in People magazine 7 different times. I'm also a little bit popular on Instagram. I have an average of 2 million, an average of 2 million followers of monthly engagement on Instagram. So I know that, the things that I'm saying to you guys and the posts that I make every day are actually helping people, move on with their lives and giving them a little bit of inspiration daily. So I say all this to say that I'm a designer and that's what I do for a living, but my passion and my life's work is actually helping people feel better about themselves and sharing my story and letting them know that there is light at the end of the tunnel, because I don't care how I look now, I've definitely been where all of you have been, and we share the same kinds of thoughts. So you're never actually alone. Like we're all in this together. So with that said, I told you a little bit about where I've come from and how I got to be who I am now. Oh, sorry, back to, I'm like going out of order, but these are the companies that I've worked for. There's my app that's available in the App Store. I got ahead of myself. These are my books. All of them are available on Amazon for purchase. And these are almost all of the times that I've been featured in People magazine, the half their size formats. What I'll say about this is that I was first featured back in 2005, and they consistently kept coming back. They consistently kept coming back and asking me if I would be featured again. They would come back and say, how's your life? Have you accomplished anything? Have you kept the weight off? How are you doing? Blah, 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 blah. And to that, I always say, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So every time I had an opportunity to be in the magazine and to share my story with people, I was absolutely ready for it. So the more people that I can encourage and inspire through whatever format media or social media, whatever it is, I'm always ready to tell the story. And again, me telling myself that that's who I am now, and that this is what I have to present to the world. This is what keeps the will going. This is what keeps me motivated and keeps me, on my toes. Maybe someone's going to need my help. Maybe somebody's going to need me to tell my story again. So let me continue to do what I say I'll do, and continue to, be a person of my word to myself. Any questions before I move on? Okay. Okay, so I've again told you who I am and how I got to where I am, and now I'm going to try and give you, a few tools for you to move forward with internal, positive internal self-talk and self-awareness. So first, I have a few questions for you. So the first question is, why do you need self-aware positive internal conversation? So there's no actual, there's no wrong answer to this. Does anybody want to give?
You said why?
Sorry, that was the second question. We'll start with the first question. The first question is, why don't we already have self-awareness and positive self-talk? I hit on this a little bit earlier, and Susan, I think she hit on it a little bit earlier too, but does anybody want to give that, want to try and answer that question, and why we don't already have self-awareness and positive self-talk?
You said why we don't?
Yeah, why don't you already have self-awareness and positive self-talk? Why aren't we already saying these things to ourselves?
It's gonna be like repeating myself, but I do believe that it all depends on who you decide to surround yourself with. If you are making changes, if you are continue to do the same thing. Those are the three I can think about. Sorry.
Perfect. That's great. Outside influences, that's great. Does anybody else want to answer the question? There's actually no wrong answer. Okay, cool. I'll go. So as I stated earlier, I was never taught that I was supposed to be positive and that I was supposed to speak kindly to myself. No one ever taught that to me. I think now there is this movement in, body positivity and, there's mental health awareness. I think when I was younger, I just didn't have that. So I didn't know that I was supposed to. I didn't know that it was so important to, love myself and speak kindly to myself. So that's the first one. I wasn't taught that way. The next one is outside factors, right? Like Susan said, the people that you surround yourself with, social media, the media, cultural constructs, right? Outside factors, people you're surrounding yourself with. It could be at school. You could be just around negative people. Your family members could be negative. That's why we don't already have this positive, awareness and positive self-talk. Your siblings or your parents could be very, very negative. They could say negative things to their own selves that you picked up from a young age, and you're just not aware of it. Lastly, life is very, very loud, and there are so many other things that seem to matter more than checking in on ourselves, right? When was the last time you asked yourself if you were okay? When was the last time you checked in with yourself and, checked on your mental and asked yourself if you were really okay with all of the things that you're going through, with all of the responsibilities that you have, and with all of the things that you're trying to do? I don't think we check on ourselves enough, right? So that could be another reason why we don't have self-awareness and we're not speaking positively to ourselves, because we don't check in with ourselves enough, right?
Do you feel like there's a thing as checking on yourself too much? I feel like that's my problem.
I don't think it can be too much. If you think it's a problem, then maybe you just, restrict yourself and you're going to say, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, I do a check-in with me and see if I'm all right. I mean, because, you don't want it to become kind of like a manic thing where, you're very self-conscious about it. I don't think you can do it too many times, but maybe just restrict yourself to do it, 3 times a week or whatever. But I never think that it's a bad thing. Okay, so the second question is, as leaders, why do we need self-aware, positive internal conversations? Why do you guys think that, wait, hold on, let's see. Oh, look. Oh, I'm going back. I think it may be because our environment, not being raised with parents that practice it themselves. That's exactly what I just said. Thank you so much, Tiffany. We check our phone's battery more than we check our internal battery. Thank you, Jose. Absolutely, 100%. Thank you so much for these comments. I'm terrible at checking them. Sorry. Okay. So the second question is, why do you think we need to be self-aware and have positive internal conversations with ourselves? Why is that important? Why does it sound like it is important to speak to yourself kindly? You guys can just come off mute and talk instead of typing if you want to. Perfect. Melanie said to build self-confidence. Absolutely, very important. And there's no wrong answer here. Everybody, uses internal conversation for different reasons. Okay, so first we have to build self-confidence, very, very important. Also, we need to believe in what we're selling, right? Which is ourselves. We sell ourselves constantly. I sell myself at work every day, right? I sell myself to my friends, I sell myself to my family. The kind of person that I present, it's me selling myself. I've created this person, this is who I am, right? I'm selling myself right now to you guys. My job is to make you believe that I know what I'm talking about and that I'm an expert in this space, right? So if I don't believe that I can do that, how do I expect for anyone else to believe that I can, right? So it's important to have these internal conversations because you need to believe in yourself, because selling yourself is always going to be a part of whatever it is that you're doing in life. And this it's not a negative thing, it's a very positive thing. The second reason that I have is because your mental health is as important as your physical health, right? We can go to the doctor, we can go to the gym, we can eat healthy all we want, but if your mental is off, if you're not feeling okay inside, it's going to throw everything else in your life out of whack. So it's very important to check in with yourself. It's going to show up in every other area of your life. The third reason, or the fourth reason that I have is because the entire world is going to seem like it's telling you no. It's always going to seem like, you're not good enough, or you failed at this and you have to try again at that. You need to be the one person telling yourself yes. So in these internal conversations, all the external conversations, they might end up in no's or maybes and ifs, but you have to be the one bigging yourself up and telling yourself yes. Do we have any questions about that? Okay, last question is, this is my favorite question, of course. How do we begin changing your mindsets to lead in positivity? Does anybody want to share anything about that? Does anybody have any answer? Again, there are no wrong answers to any of these questions.
By actively seeking help.
Perfect, that's great. Actively seeking help, perfect. Actively seeking help, do you mean therapy, or what would you deem actively seeking help?
Yeah, stuff like therapy, so you can get on the right track.
Absolutely. Melanie said, stop putting yourselves down, focus on positive things and outcomes. Jason asked, what are some ways that you can recommend we practice positive internal conversations? I have that coming right up. I think these are great answers. Anybody else?
I think you could write down positive words for yourself. You could download, there's an app called the I Am app. You could download apps like that. I myself, I took some affirmations from that app and I put it on a big old board right in front of my toilet. So every time I go to the bathroom or anybody that comes to my house, when they're sitting on the toilet, they read I think I have maybe about 10 or 12 of them up there, and they just read it and you find whatever resonates with yourself and you just say it to yourself while you're in the bathroom. My sister loved it so much that she actually started to do it in her own house. A lot of my friends have tried to do it in their house as well.
I love that. That's perfect. I love that. That's perfect. It can be as simple as writing it down. That's absolutely perfect. It can be as simple as writing it down and then saying it like out loud every day. So what I have, what I suggest, you write down how you feel about yourself and what you would like to change, right? You're never going to get to the other end of who you are if you don't actively point out the things that you don't like about yourself, right? I didn't like that I was, depressed all the time and that, I would constantly backtrack on, the promises that I would make to myself. So, I wrote those things down. Even now, if, I think that I could, have more empathy in certain situations. So, I write that down and write down the things that I can do to change that, right? So definitely writing down affirmations and the way that you feel about yourself. I think that would definitely help. And then the second part of that is to read your daily affirmations. I'm big on affirmations, but I'm even bigger on adding actions to those affirmations, right? So all the time I say, oh, I can do this, I can do this. But then at the end, I can do this by doing what, right? I can do this, but how am I supposed to do this? So I write down the second part. I can do this by doing this, right? I can lose 5 pounds by doing this. I can not eat fast food, or I can cut out sugar, or I can cut out bread, right? So affirmations are very, very important, but the actions that come along with the affirmations are also as important as the affirmations themselves. I personally like to start each day with an affirmation. I find something that speaks to me, or speaks to some kind of situation that I was in the day before, or something that I have coming up that really speaks to the situation. And then I find an affirmation, I add an action to it, and then I repeat that all day throughout the day after I write it down. So that actually really, really, really helps. Another way is to identify what motivates you in your internal conversations, right? What are the words that respond most to you, right? What phrases motivate you the most? Like, you could walk around saying, I'm a bad bitch, right? That might motivate you. I'm saying, like, sometimes I have to say that to myself. Maybe that's the way, you get motivated. You could sing All I Do Is Win, Win, Win in your mind all day long. Like, if that's what's motivating you and that's what's turning the internal conversations from negative to positive, you need to identify that and say, this is my chant. This is what I need to pump myself up in any given situation. Another way is to remind yourself of the things you're good at. What are the things that really make you feel like you? If I say I like to cook, I'll think about a situation where, I cooked a meal that everybody really, really loved and I got like lots of compliments on, right? Like, and I'll use that encouragement to fulfill, you know, the rest of my day. I think about the things that I'm good at as opposed to thinking about the things that I'm scared of or things that may intimidate me. You really just have to think about the moments and the things that you're doing when you feel best about yourself, things that really, really make you feel like you. And then the last thing is no more negative self-talk. Whenever you feel a negative thought coming on, and this happens to me daily still, whenever I feel a negative thought coming on, I counteract it with 3 positive thoughts, right? So I'm at work and, you know, I go into a creative review and someone says something irritating about something I've designed, and I want to call them like a bad name or something. You know, I think about, you know, 3 other compliments they gave me in other creative reviews or something, right? Or I think of, you know, one of my favorite projects that landed really, really well. I think that's it's a real, and you could do that with any situation. You could do that within your relationships, within your, you know, family dynamics, anything. As soon as you feel that negative thought coming on about a person even, you counteract it with 3 positive thoughts, and each time it'll overshadow. So those are really, really good defense mechanisms to kind of like change your internal process. And if you begin to think like that all of the time, it'll just become a way of life, right? The negative thoughts they'll sneak in every now and then, but you'll have such a good baseline of things to combat them that it'll just come like, you know, it'll come natural to you. You just have to practice these things consistently. Practice your affirmations. You practice no negative self-talk about yourself, and you always counteract your negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Okay, any questions about that? Okay, great. Okay, so I've told you guys, you know, my origin story, and I've given you a little bit of tools to kind of, you know, move forward. But all of these are very actionable things. Like me talking to you and, you know, giving this speech isn't actually going to change anything in your life. You're actually going to have to do the work yourself. So I told you who I am, but like the stuff in the middle, the middle part stuff is like the actual important stuff, right? I kind of told you where I came from and like who I am right now, but getting here has not been easy. The lessons that I learned early on really just set me up for every other win that I've ever had. I'm able to walk into creative reviews, bid on contracts because of the things that I've already accomplished in life. My biggest accomplishment was changing the way I thought about myself and consistently holding myself accountable for these internal conversations. My biggest accomplishment was not losing weight. My biggest accomplishment was changing the mindset that I could lose the weight. It didn't come from losing weight. It's because I changed my mindset. And that's what I hold on to in any given situation. If I'm up for a job, if there's a really hard project at work, I always tell myself, I've survived worse than this. I've done other things that I thought that I was incapable of doing, and I accomplished them. I think about the things that I told myself, when things looked impossible and when I was scared to try, because everything is frightening at first, right? Everything is scary before you try it, right? Now I feel like I'm able to lead because I've led myself so many times in the past. And I'm constantly, giving myself a boost up. Like I'm constantly, giving myself that kind of like internal talk, like you can do this, you got this, girl. And I mean, every day. I mean, whenever things get rough at work, I take a little break, right? I call it a boast break. I take a boast break. I say, I got this. I whisper it to myself. I can do this. I've survived worse than this. I'm the strongest person in the room. I'm a capable person. I can do it. Like these are the chants, the mantras that I have for myself that I always have in my back pocket when things are getting a little rough. Nothing is ever going to be easy, whether it's work or school or relationships or, you know, family life. Nothing is ever going to be easy, but you have to consistently be the person that's being your, you know, biggest cheerleader. You're always going to have to boost yourself up. So if we remember, you know, my last name, it's Tabb, T-A-B-B. It's a great acronym for taking a boast break, right? And boasting might seem like it's a negative thing, but it's never negative when you're putting it into yourself, right? You should boast on yourself. You should boost yourself up. You deserve encouragement, and you should be the first person that's going to give it to yourself, right? So if you remember anything, I would like for you to remember my last name and take away the take a boast break and kind of like add that to your daily regiments whenever things are getting a little bit tough. Do we have any questions? Okay, great. So now I have a bit of kind of like a breakout session. Based on the things that I've said, I would like for you guys to kind of like put these actions kind of like into words, right? It seems like it's something that's very, very simple, but I think that the more you think about it, the harder it might get. So what I would like for you to do is to identify a negative thought or belief that you have in yourself. For example, I'm not good enough. Then I would like for you to challenge the accuracy of this thought, right? Is that really true? Is it really true that you're not good enough? Do you have evidence to support this? Or is there evidence that contradicts this? Like you could write on a piece of paper, you know, the pros and the cons, right? I mean, it seems silly, but it's extremely useful. So then next, you would replace that negative thought with a positive alternative. And we talked about a little about this earlier, right? For example, I might not be perfect, but I'm good enough and I'm capable of improving. I've accomplished many things in the past and I have the ability to do so again in the future. I want you to get specific and list at least one accomplishment, right? This can't just be, you know, very like, oh, well, I am good, you know, I can do this. Like you need to list out something that you're actually good at so that you can see it written down on paper, right? And then this could be a tool that you use later in the future to combat any of those kind of like negative thoughts about yourself or negative internal conversations when they happen. So if we could take a few minutes and do this, that would be great. You guys could say them out loud if you want, or you could just put them in the chat. So I'm gonna give you guys like maybe 15 minutes or so to work on that.
Can you repeat that last part? I'm so sorry.
Replace any, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay, so replace, so first you're going to identify a negative thought. Next, you're going to challenge the accuracy of that thought. And then you're going to replace that thought with a positive alternative. So just do those. You can say, oh, a negative thought is blah, blah, blah. Challenge it, right? Is there any proof that you're not XYZ? Or is there support that, you know, that contradicts that actual thing? And then the last part is replace that negative thought with a positive alternative. So you could simply write down, you know, I'm not good enough, right? And then replace that negative thought with something that's positive. You know, I might not be perfect, but I have done XYZ in the past, if that makes sense.
Can we say it too, or we have to write it?
Whatever you like. Like you could say it, you can write it, whatever. And this is you guys' show.
Okay, well, let me start off. I'll say a negative thought for me is I used to tell myself like, you're not enough. And well, it's kind of like what it says there. Okay, just basically telling myself like you could do more. And then I had to challenge myself with saying like you're already doing, you know, enough. like you're doing what you can, and then like actually looking at the positive stuff I was doing for myself. I don't know if I'm missing something.
No, I think that's okay. So when you were asking yourself these questions, how did you know that you, when you said, "Oh, I'm not doing enough," like number one, where did "I'm not doing enough" come from? And number two, how were you able to get to the point where you counteracted that with "I am actually blah blah blah"?
Well, I would say for me, it came from growing up with just me and my mother. I always would say, I'm gonna buy my mother a house. I'm gonna make sure that I don't get pregnant. I'm gonna get married first and then have my kids. So it was just a high standard of, I have to make sure I represent my mom and show that, you know, her raising me on her own, like I can't be a failure. But then from there, it was like, you know, thank God you don't have I don't have, you know, a criminal background. I did leave my mother's house at 18. Yes, I did go back like once. And then from there, it was like, you know, I went out and I actually started doing things on my own. So from that point on, it was like, be proud of yourself. Like, you shouldn't need validation from nobody else. And I would definitely say, I guess, like feeling the love, well, from, I believe, a higher power, and just like that comfort, like, I love you enough to let you know that I made you the way I am. I made you the way you are for a reason, and I got your back, and you are okay because I'm here with you. So that's what it was for me.
That's great. Thank you for that. That's perfect. That's perfect. These are great. So do you find that, and this is a great example, but do you find that, you know, this is something that you're able to implement all the time, or do you still struggle with these internal conflicts?
I feel like sometimes God be looking down at me like, listen, didn't I speak to you just this morning? But then I still like kind of question it a little bit. And I'm like, who am I to question what he has done? You know, he created me and he knows the reason why. But then I'm always telling him, like, help me find my purpose, like help me do this, help me do that. And I'm like, I know he's tired. I know he probably got an off blame for me because, you know, sometimes I'm like, oh my God, I'm too much. But then at the same time, like when I see other people smile, just my personality, like everybody always tells me, oh my God, you're so cool. Like, you know, you're like a nice person and all this other stuff. I'm like, I'll be looking at myself like, really? But then I have to reflect on it like, you're dope. And I'm like, yeah. So once I start feeling myself again, I'm like, all right, I'm good.
I love that. Right. That's exactly how you should be feeling about yourself. All right, I'm gonna give you guys a few more minutes. If anyone else would like to share, if anybody else is finished and want to either come off mute or put it in the chat, that would be great.
Hi, I think I'll go.
Perfect.
Um, I wrote down I will never truly be happy. The challenge to that was you have had happy moments, people who have brought you happiness and felt things that made you happy outside of others. The affirmation was I am happy. My happiness depends on me. I will lift my countenance and embrace my ability to lead a happier life. I actually had two, so I don't want to be greedy with time.
No,
So bear with me.
go for it. Go for it. You're gonna
Um,
loosen other people up. Go for it.
yeah, the other one was I'll never complete my education. Just a little bit of a background, like I've always struggled with my education. I don't think I've been the greatest student ever, and it took me a really long time to get my associate's degree. I actually got it from here at Hostos. I'm physically at Hostos today with Jason, so it's pretty cool.
Congrats.
So the challenge to that was you've gotten your God-given degree after 10 years. You didn't quit even when others told you to. And my affirmation was I will commit myself to my education to obtain the goals that I want. So that was me.
That sounds amazing. So if we could go like a step further, like, okay, you're going to you will complete your education. What are some actionable items that you can add to that affirmation to make sure you hold yourself to actually accomplishing that affirmation?
I think definitely by studying way more. I'm not one that really likes to study. And I feel like in the current environment that I'm in terms of my school, because I go to John Jay, I haven't allowed myself to embrace the environment like I did back at Hostos. So I guess allowing myself to be a part of that environment and that system, because it was extremely helpful to me here once I had a community and I had people kind of behind me, willing me on, like Jason, and just helping me through the whole thing. So I think those are kind of two things that I'll allow myself to do.
Okay, great. Make sure you write those down too, because those are just as important. And congratulations on the associates. Like, that's where it all starts. And you're here today. You showed up today. That's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you.
You're great. Does anyone else? I'm giving you guys some time because I know it's very personal and it's very difficult. I think my entire story is personal. And believe it or not, like, this is my passion and what I consider my life's work. But I go to school every day, I go to work every day, and I'm a completely different person. Like, a lot of people don't know what I do, on the side, and that, I'm into, manifesting and affirmations, and I write books and things like that, because it's very personal. It's a part of my actual life, right? But I get to go to work and I get to just be a designer, right? Even though I feel like I have, this huge responsibility to actually, share with people, the things that I've learned and the things that I know, because we're all struggling with these things. Does anybody else want to share?
I think.
Okay, I will try.
Oh, somebody want to go?
Go ahead.
For me, I think I more so compare myself to everybody that's my age. So I am a little bit older. Um, I'll be 39 this year. So I compare. I compare myself to a lot of the people I went to high school with, elementary school with. Some people are married. Some people have 2 or 3 kids. Some people are going back to school for their masters, and I'm just now going for my associates. I have no kids, no marriage, no boyfriend, no nothing. So I feel like, sometimes I look at it and I'm like, dang, am I really that far behind everybody else in life right now? Like, did I not do enough? But then sometimes I talk myself and I'm like, you know what? When they was going to school in their 20s, I can say I had a very fun 20s. I got all the partying out of my system. So that now lets me be able to focus more now on school, where I can now tell my friends, hey, I'm focused on school. No, I'm not partying. Where I think if this was back in my 20s, I'd have been like, all right, let's go. And school just wouldn't have got accomplished. So yeah, so I still compare myself every now and again, but I still tell myself, like, I'm supposed to be where I'm at now. And now they're trying to party like how I partied in my 20s, and y'all look foolish. Going on 40 years old, trying to be doing what the 20-year-olds do. At least I got it out of my system. So I kind of look at it in a positive way. And so that's how I try to get through it when I have those negative thoughts.
I love that. I think that's great. You're absolutely right. Everyone's journey is their own, and you're in the right place at the right time, and you're doing it for yourself. I mean, trust me, like we're in the same age bracket, and I'm unmarried without any children as well. So I have my own internal conversations about comparing myself to, people that I went to high school or middle school with. So it's totally understandable. As long as you keep telling yourself that you're in the right place at the right time. Everyone's journey is different. I love that. Thank you for sharing, Suprina.
You're welcome.
Oh yeah. So I will try to share my mind too. Like I'm a little bit related to what Cyprian said earlier, like about the age and about I feel like me and my peers, like the high school friends, and where I am and where they are right now. Like I'm like I'm like 30 years old. I'm not that much old, like Supriyan, but 30 years old. And I'm too far away because some of them got their master's degrees. Some of them are working in the high places. Like some of them are lawyers. And I'm here like chasing an associate degree at Hostos. So, but sometimes when I sit down and see how far I was and how things is going in my life, I'm like I'm not like late like what I'm thinking. Like I'm able to take care of my family, stay back home. I'm able to take care of myself. I'm able to do the things like people that don't have the chance to do. If you understand what I mean. So I'm like I'm not late as I think, but my time is not my time for now. That's why I'm still struggling somewhere, and I'm trying to celebrate myself every time that I'm able to accomplish something. Like every time, like when I finish a semester, when I finished this semester, I was like, okay, I made a step. This is the step that I made. So next step, I need to do more. I need to be more. I need to do more things to be able to achieve the goals that I made. I fixed to myself. So that's what I have to share with you.
Thank you. No, I think that's perfect too. Like what I took away from that was I'm not late, and I'm celebrating myself. I think that's wonderful. That's exactly the kind of internal self-talk that's gonna take you far. It's turning those negative connotations and kind of negative ideas into positive ones. Thank you so much. Do we have anyone else that wants to share a negative thought or idea, and along with an affirmation that they can attach to it to change those internal conversations and mindsets?
I'm sorry, you guys. I'm in the barber shop. It's my boyfriend's birthday today, so you guys might hear the music in the background. I'm not partying, but I just wanted to say that I do believe that we all are here today for a reason. Somebody told me, when you do pray, everybody has their own beliefs. But me personally, when I speak to God, I just like a regular conversation. I always say, even though I can't like see you and stuff like that, I do believe that He is where we are. So, I just want to say that we all are here for a reason. And, I just do believe that everybody has their own pathways. And I hope that we, you know, just all continue to obviously stop doubting ourselves and just to know that self-love is everything. I did lack that for a very, thank you. I'm gonna let him know he's 41, he's old. But yeah, I'm gonna I'm gonna tell him happy birthday. So yeah, but you know, I just wanted to say that it took me like a very, very long time to learn how to like really love myself. And but when I used to say, oh my God, I love myself, it was like, yeah, let me go get do my hair and my nails and stuff like that. When I didn't do that, I felt depressed. Like I was like, oh my God, I need to do my hair. Like I look crazy and I feel like my word was over. But I noticed like it's not what you put on, it's what, you know, is inside of you that you reflect out. So I just wanted to say that.
Thank you. Super positive. You're absolutely right. All right. I love that. I think that, you know, if you guys want to just screenshot screenshot these questions and do it privately. It's a super useful tool to be able to change your mindsets like within. I personally, you know, practice things like this all the time. I seem like, you know, I'm a very confident person, and I have gained, you know, high self-esteem, but all of those come from, you know, me hyping myself up and, you know, really trying to like lead myself as best possible so that I can kind of find my space in the world and exist in a happy existence as opposed to just, you know, existing and going through the motions. I think that once you get really self-aware about the conversations you're having with yourself, you'll realize why it's so important to speak kindly to yourself. Once you start doing it, you'll actually realize the old conversations you were having with yourself, and you know how things get just so much lighter and so much clearer. You'll no longer want to be around people that are just speaking negatively about themselves or other people all of the time, right? I don't want to say they go hand in hand, but they're definitely related. The way that you speak to yourself and like your overall happiness in life, you know, things aren't ever going to be perfect, but you can do what you can do to, you know, make your life a perfect version for yourself, you know, while you're getting to where you want to be. I think that it's just very important to remember that the things that you say to yourself are things that actually manifest in other places in your life. You know, if you don't think you're good enough, you know, and you go into work, you know, your work may reflect that, right? In relationships, you know, if you don't think that you're the best partner that you can be, maybe this manifests, maybe this shows up in other spaces, right? You have to tell yourself that you're good. You have to be your own cheerleader. You have to be the person that's going to always be at the forefront of the conversations and how great you are. If you don't believe in yourself, it's not likely that other people are going to believe in you. And if I didn't believe in myself, I definitely couldn't be here telling you guys how to believe in yourself. So I hope that that's one of like the large takeaways, that it's okay to boost yourself up and, you know, actually say out loud that you believe in yourself. So it's really, really important. Thank you guys for, you know, everybody that commented in the breakout session. But now I just wanted to, you know, leave a little space for a Q&A of what you can ask me anything you want to about anything that I spoke about. I'm all ears.
I just want to say, what do you feel like is the healthiest part of you now?
I think by far that my mindset is the healthiest part of me. I work out all the time because it's a part of, you know, my lifestyle, and, you know, it makes me happy, but everything leads back to my mindset. If I didn't keep a positive mindset, if I didn't make sure that I was disciplined and consistent, nothing else in my life would work. I wouldn't be able to, you know, take the notes that I need to create all of, you know, the many different assets that I need to make at work. I wouldn't be able to, you know, create positive messages for people on social media. I wouldn't be able to work on my passion projects. It's definitely my mind. It's definitely always me against my mindset. It's always, you know, I'm doing this because I want to be a better person. I made this promise to myself, so I need to keep this promise to myself. So it's definitely keeping a positive mindset and being able to roll with the punches and change those, negative thoughts that creep in into, positive thoughts, and, kind of counteract those negative things with the positive things. I use this in every situation. Again, family, relationships. I mention work a lot because, we work a lot and it consumes a lot of my time. So I definitely have my moments, but it all falls back to having like a healthy mindset and being able to kind of like roll with the punches and keep it positive. Any other questions? It could be about anything. It just doesn't need to be about action.
I wanted to say I really appreciate you saying about your weight loss. Like I just lost some weight as well, and I give it to you that you did it on your own. Unfortunately, I did weight loss surgery.
However you did it, congratulations.
Right? Yeah. Thank you. Congratulations to you too, because I know that thing is like really hard. It's really hard. I know like the mental state and everything, but like I definitely agree with you. Like my head space is way much better now. The gym is my boyfriend. And I really appreciate you sharing it, because I was like, wow, I really I could compare to this. Like at least there's someone else out there also that's been through the same thing that I have been through. And I really appreciate you sharing.
Oh, thank you for that. That means a lot to me. And again, our journeys might be different, but they're one and the same. Like I'm sure we definitely had the same kinds of thought processes and thought patterns, when we were overweight. So, that being said, you'll be able to use the weight loss experience in every other area in the rest of your life. Like you said, the gym is your boyfriend because you're dedicated to it, right? You're dedicated to a new way of life. And that's a positive thing. It's going to be something that's with you for forever. So thank you for saying that. It's even for you, it's not just about your weight loss. It's about the mentality you put into it afterwards.
It's true. Yeah, it's like definitely what you were saying, like how like emotional eating, like I'll be happy at eating, sad eating, mad eating. And I just had a bad relationship with food. And now I finally fixed it. And I'm like, I'm in my 30s. I got to keep it going.
Absolutely. Congratulations to you. I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
Hi, I have a question. Hi, so how did your family and friends respond to the changes you made?
Okay, so that's a great question. And it's very interesting. So I will say that my family was definitely enthusiastic and very, very positive about, my family was very positive about the entire process. I will say that at first, like they didn't understand it because, I'm, African American and we eat a certain way, right? So my parents were kind of like, oh, we've always eaten this way. We've always eaten fried food and blah, 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 blah. But after I explained to them, what I was actually going through daily and why I needed to change the things that I ate and why I could not eat, what everyone else was eating, then they understood it. Now it's, years and years later, and it's a very, very positive, outcome. And of course, me being myself, I try and get everybody else on board with me as well. So that turned into a very positive outcome. I'll say that with friends, and this was years ago, but I'll say I probably don't have any of the same friends that I had back then. I think when you're younger and you pick a different life path and, you try to excel past the people that you've always been with, I guess jealousy comes into play. And, sometimes you're with people and they're standing still and you're progressing and moving forward. I think that gets a little difficult, but then at the same time, you need to look around and see if, the people that you're surrounding yourself with, are your cheerleaders or are they your haters, right? Like, do they want you to stay in the same place with them or are they pushing you forward, right? So I'll say that I don't have many of the same friends that I've had back when I was overweight and depressed that I have right now. But with my family, it was it was definitely a learning experience, and it turned out to be very, very positive.
Thanks for answering that question. I do have one more. Do you feel that positive internal talk can lead you to be a role model externally?
Absolutely. I don't think that I would be able to be in the situation or the position that I'm in now if I didn't tell myself that I could. Your internal self-talk and your, self-awareness and leadership, those things are what push you forward to anywhere. Like if you want to be a role model and you tell yourself that you are a role model and that you can be a role model, they kind of go hand in hand. So definitely me keeping a safe space for myself internally inside sets me up to be able to offer help to other people outside, right? And I think I do like lots of mentorship and things like that. I think that the reason why people are able to relate to me the most is because I've come from similar situations and backgrounds as them, and that I'm able to speak to them, because we're all on the same level, right? It's not me, a person who's achieved all of these things in life. It's me, a person that's been through quite a few hardships, and I've come from where they've come from, being able to have a clear and concise conversation. I'll say that when I was in high school, when I was young, earlier in my schooling, even in college, I didn't have access to people that I wanted to be like, right? I didn't have strong mentors. There wasn't a person in a job or a profession that I wanted to be in that I could reach out and talk to. There wasn't a person that, had lost 100 pounds that I could reach out and have a conversation with. So for me, I think it's very important, for me in my mindset to know that, the things that I've been through are actually going to help other people. And that now is a part of my internal talk. I know that because of where I've come from, I'm able to help others. And because of that, it makes me better. It makes me a better resource to reach out to other people to help them. I hope that answers your question.
It definitely did. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. Okay, so I have a question for you guys. What kind of person do you guys think, just piggybacking off of Stefan's question, what kind of person do you guys most respond to, or what kind of person do you guys think are the best kind of role models for you personally? Like, who do you respond to the most? Like, what kind of people do you want to see as role models in your lives?
I would say generally people.
It sounds like a real bad echo.
Thanks, sir. I'm in the office with Boss, and he's watching it in the background with me. What I would say is a person who is genuinely caring. I think that goes an extremely long way, at least with me. Just having somebody that I know that cares and that's kind of there as a source of mentorship. I think we all can reference Jason in that aspect because he's done it for all of us, or most people in the room. I don't know whoever's had the opportunity to kind of sit with Jason and kind of sit on a learning tree just a little bit, but there's not much that he won't do to see you succeed. So I would say people like that are relentless about helping you reach your goals and pushing you into the areas that will make you a better person.
I love that. I'm so a caring person. Anyone else? The kinds of role models and mentors that you'd like to have in your life. I'm asking because personally, I didn't have many.
I would like to have someone who is somewhere where I want to be already, and having them around and giving me pointers and stuff. Like, for instance, like I want to be a nurse. My best friend's a nurse. And we had stopped talking for years, but then we started talking again, and she's been mentoring me ever since. And with her around me, it gives me more motivation to do what I need to do in school. And knowing that she's from the hood, we both ghetto as hell, and she did it, I could do it too.
I love that. Yeah, I love that. I think it's very important to see people that are from where you're from in the positions that you want to be in later on in life. I think it's very important. Okay, so is it Aisha? She says, the person that can mentally be there for me and your personality is beautiful. Sorry, who went off mute?
Daniel, hold on. Nino, wait.
Sorry, who was that?
I think that was Rossini.
Okay, so I have from Tiffany, she says, someone that is confident, empathetic, has fun and wholesome personality, and have shared values. Thank you for that, Tiffany. Yeah, I think shared values are super, super, super important. Oh, so much to get back in. Absolutely. I think that shared values is very important because if we can care about the same thing, then we can find some kind of like connection somewhere. I think that at the end of the day, you know, me being positive or, you know, me sharing manifestations or affirmations is important, but to know that I'm, you know, the same, just keep in mind that I'm like the same as you. Like we share some same struggle, like we care about the same thing. So I do think that's very important. Does anybody else want to share? Sorry, the question again was what kind of mentors are most useful? What kind of mentors are most useful to you?
Well, for me, I would say the resources that I use around me, like I told myself this year, going back to Hostos, I want to meet everybody from at least like the most important departments, just in case I need to call them or email them or text them. Like even if I have to pop up at the office, but I feel like that is the most helpful for me because I didn't take full advantage before. I'll definitely say that this time around, I'm happy it took me the time it has to like go back because now I'm like, you know, there are resources out there, just like you have to be consistent and also not letting I would say like when people say, yeah, just give me time or I don't know, I guess I'll call you back or I'll email you back and you never hear from them. And that's kind of a turn off. It's like, well, if you show me inconsistency, doesn't mean I have to be inconsistent with myself. So I would say those kind of resources.
That's great. I love your last point. Just because you showed inconsistency doesn't mean I have to be inconsistent. You know, that's an affirmation all in itself. So thank you for that. Lachelle says, someone who can match my energy and appreciate my potential. That's huge. Having someone to believe in you and to match your energy and are as enthusiastic about you as you are about yourself. That's huge. That also is good for, you know, your internal self-talk. Okay, so do we have any other questions at all for me? Okay, so no other questions. I would like to ask you guys, what was the thing that stood out to you the most about this workshop? It could be anything. It could be, you know, it could be the affirmations, it could be the weight loss, it could be, you know, the passion projects, it could be what I do for a living. I would love to hear from you guys, you know, what you thought was the most beneficial part of this workshop. It's useful for me and it's also useful, it's gonna be useful for you guys as well.
I'll say the level of like, well, I don't know if people say like energy or vibe, but the level of comfortability you gave, and it was just very like calm and smoothly. I didn't feel like I'm not gonna say premeditated, but like it didn't feel sketched. It was more like natural. So yeah.
Oh, thank you for saying that. Thank you for being so interactive. I tried to keep it very conversational, and I didn't want it to feel like, I was, talking down to you guys as opposed to talking to you, as one-on-one. Would anyone else like to share what the most beneficial part of the workshop was? Or you can put it in the chat as well.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Susan on that one too. I think you talking about your weight loss um, gave a lot of like authenticity to the conversation. So I would agree with her on that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I'll say that that's not actually an easy thing to talk about, even though a lot of my life has been based on that actual struggle. It's still not that simple to talk about, right? Since it's not been technically a part of my life for so long, it's not that easy for me to share it with strangers. So thank you for saying that. Tiffany says, your realness with your struggles and how you use that to get where you are today. You nailed it, Tiffany. Thank you so much. Thank you for saying that. Anyone else? All right. Okay, Melanie says she enjoyed hearing about your accomplishments, books written, and articles in magazines, your passion towards your career, and it gave me a lot of drive. Oh, thank you for saying that, Melanie. Tiffany says, thank you for sharing. Your story is definitely helping others. I myself feel like I need to hear that to be able to push myself a little more. Thank you. You just by you showing up and you being here, Tiffany, is definitely a step in the right direction. Right. All right. Okay. So yeah, I think this was really great. It was, I hope you guys got some, benefit from it. And I hope that there are some things that you could take away from today, even if it's, the smallest thing, like, taking a boast break to, encourage yourself and boost yourselves up. I hope that you understand how important it is that you're nice to yourself and that you're kind to yourself and that you speak nicely to yourself, as nicely to yourself as you speak to others. I hope that at the very least you can take that away from this conversation. And I would like to thank Hostess and Jason for having me. This has been a really, really great experience. I'm happy to have met all of you guys, and definitely it does me good just to reach out and touch more people and to help inspire others, because others have inspired me, and I know that I have a story to tell, and I just thank you all for listening to it.
I want to thank you, Roberta. First of all, I think the message is really important, and I think we all heard it. One of the things, and I see some names here that were silent here today that I've already had the conversation with over a couple of days this past semester. Speaking kindly to yourself or lifting yourself up is a really important part of becoming an absolute positive person in society. I think it's a way to actually make an impact and not feel like you're wasting your time. Some people when they get involved in action, social action, getting involved in the community, volunteering. They often will see it as like a negative, as something, this is extra work. This is something that is outside of my normal stream of consciousness. But when we have this group here and the students come out and they do volunteer work and they give back to the community, whether it's right here on campus or outside in a park or a shelter, wherever we go, I think there's a realization that there's so much positive energy flowing from you and into the lives of other people. And it allows you to reflect on yourself in a really positive way. And I think by starting with that, right, having that positive motivation from inside, where you're talking to yourself about all of the possible things that you can do, the social impact that you can have, the positive impact that you can have on your family, your friends, everybody that you come into contact with. And we heard some of those stories today. I think it leads to greater result. So thank you for sharing your story. It's the first time I've heard it. I always need a reminder to talk nicer to myself. Stefan had said he's in the office. So he came to visit me, and we commenced to have a conversation about, pathways and journeys and all that good stuff. And I referenced him right before we came online here, about being a parent and the struggles of dealing with like a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old and the challenges that they present, and how sometimes I speak negatively about myself as a father, right? In terms of how I am responding to them, or how, I feel like I may be not giving them enough. And so, yeah, I think I need to be more positive with myself too sometimes, even in that, and remind myself and my wife that, we're doing a lot of good work. Sometimes being the tough parent is not always the worst thing in the world. Sometimes it's a little bit necessary, especially when they're going for the extra sugar. So thank you for reminding me of that. It's really a pleasure to meet you. I could only read the information that was shared. I take Bert's recommendations seriously, as he won't bring somebody to my attention who's not worthy of this group. And so I appreciate that Bert is here still and that he recommended you to us. I know from personal experience with some of the folks that are here that your story probably resonates in a great way with them, as you heard from Sashi. She and I have had conversations about things that her own things that she's gone through, and she referenced one of her mentors, who's an alumni of our program, Lazada. So it's always nice to sort of make the circle go around and bring point one to the beginning again. So thank you for that. Let's give Roberta a round of applause, a virtual applause, however you do that in virtual environment. I never know how to do that. Yeah, all that good stuff. And Bertie, you came on. Do you want to say something? Oh, he's got the built-in applause.
That's fire.
Of course. Thank you, Bert.
So, yeah. So I'll close out here by saying I want to thank you all for being here. Osashi, you want to say something?
Yeah, I wanted to ask, did you have an Instagram? Like, are you?
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm at the Roberta Show everywhere. The Roberta Show.
Okay,
Yeah.
perfect.
Would
So-
you mind typing that in the chat so everyone can see it?
Oh, good idea.
So I want to thank you all for being here this afternoon. This is another inspirational workshop. This is our 4th in 2 days. And so I think that we'll continue on our mission tomorrow with Sean Dove and then and Namibia Adenadio. So because, starting off this year and having these conversations is really important to keep us motivated, keep us going, keep us on track, get us on, on a route to really making change in our own lives and the lives of others. And so I really appreciate you all taking the time out and being here. Roberta, thank you for sharing your story and inspiring us and getting us on that road. And I'm sure that much like everybody else who's going to come and talk to you this week, that Roberta will be more than welcome to hear from you and give you some feedback about your journey as you go along that path as well.
It's my pleasure. Thank you guys so much. This is a pleasure.
So I will see you guys. I'm going to do all of those things, the little spinning of the wheel after.
Thank you, Bretta.
And I will see you guys tomorrow. Thank you for being here. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
And thank you for all that feedback, God. Everybody who spoke, everybody who made comments, it was great. The questions were awesome. And we'll see you tomorrow.
Bye, guys.
Have a good day, everybody.
Bye,
Take care,
everyone.
everybody.
Have a great day.
Bye.
See you.